Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Cosentino City Singapore. It's great to see all of you here tonight in our beautiful showroom. And we are thrilled to host the third edition of Type series in this year, 2023. And then, so I'm Celine, I'm the showroom manager. So this year, our theme is all about the future, the planets and people. So it actually reflects well on our commitment for sustainability, and also we will gain some valuable insights from our special guests. So a special thanks to Jan for organizing this and also bringing together Typhen from RSP Architects to give us a new a special day. So basically, Typhen is our first speaker. So without further ado, I will pass the mic to Jan to kick off the talk. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. So once again, I welcome everyone. It's a pleasure to be here in the new showroom of Cosentino. It's the third edition of the Type series. We started in 2019, all live, and then 2021 it was online, and finally 2023 we are here today physically together, but also online. We know that it is live stream, so welcome everyone from wherever you are on the planet. So thanks for being here. This year it's a very special year. We've been talking a lot with Cosentino on the theme of this year, this almost like regenerative approach for 2023, and what are the commitments towards the future, towards the planet, and towards the people, which is essential for Cosentino, which is essential for the built environment, and essential for our architects and planners for the future. So when we curated this year, we looked for architects who can inspire us, who can inspire the next generation of designers and architects, and to share with us their own life commitment towards our beautiful profession and what it takes to be an architect in T3. I'm very excited today to welcome Typhen from RSP Architects. Here, so welcome Typhen. So I will do a quick introduction on you and your bio. So Typhen obtained his Master of Architecture at the National University of Singapore in 2004. So that is a little bit of your age. And you had many different awards, including the 20 under 45. So 20 under 45 architect by the URA in Singapore. You are an AI member, APEC ASEAN architect. So where you are really broadening all of your intervention, not only in Singapore, but also in the region. And today it's a very special talk, very inspiring on, again, what it takes to be an architect in our world of 2023. So beyond aesthetic requirements, it is how can we respond to the ever-growing environment, and especially in the Singapore context, the construction industry that is growing fast, that is evolving. And so today we'll see how you are mastering all of these very large-scale projects, and also very innovative, futuristic, that are shaping the city of tomorrow. So once again, welcome Typhen, and the floor is yours. Thanks again.
Okay, so good evening, everybody. Can we see now? Okay, so thanks for the introduction, and thanks for coming down after work, as well as people online. So maybe I'll just start with this first slide. So this is basically the big challenge that all of us has came out from, which is the COVID period. And during this COVID period, I guess we figure out about attending lecture online. Okay, like what I've been doing for the past 3 years, and how I learned from previous architects and designers, and how I get inspired through lots of video conference. So I'm glad to see everyone here today. I recall the last seminar, or rather the physical talk that I did in URA was about 5 years back. And it's really a great pleasure to be invited to speak again, especially we just turn the year, so 2023, and we finished our Chinese New Year almost like 2 weeks ago. So it's really a brand new start for me. Okay, so where am I? Okay, so the theme that of my talk today, basically I want to share about my takes on the challenges that we are going. And I've always been proud. I've been practicing for almost 19 years. So this is my 19 years, and I'm glad I'm proud architect, having the special ability like everyone that is seated here to actually translate some design ideas into physical form for people to enjoy, as well as being a solution giver to some of the challenges that we are facing in today's construction climate. Okay, so before we just to keep everyone thinking, okay, so this is I came across this Maslow hierarchy of needs, okay, this pyramid few years back, okay, and it actually kept me pondering of what we're actually trying to do, because to be frank, I think everyone spend a lot of time with their work. Okay, we spend a lot of time on our projects, but what exactly are we looking for? Okay, so Maslow basically in 1943 he came out with a thesis that actually trying to rationalize people's needs. Okay, so if you look at the bottom of the pyramid, basically you talk about the biological and physiological needs. Okay, so this is basically bread and butter. Okay, we must fulfill our bread and butter before we can talk about the next need, which is safety. And then from there onwards, we move up the pyramid and we look into having a sense of belongings. And after that, we will elevate into the next round. Okay, basically, we talk about esteem, and then the final one, which is about self actualization. Okay, which is trying to fulfill your dreams. So this one basically, what I feel is very appropriate to describe my career as an architect. Okay, today we are still looking. I'm still pursuing the top blue triangle, which is trying to fulfill some personal agenda while trying to of course fulfill the base of providing functional solutions to the challenges around me. So I found this diagram. Okay, this is basically Vituber's three principles of architecture. Okay, I found this diagram that actually translate it to something that we can easily understand, which is solid. A building must be solid, means a building is stable. A building is useful so that you actually fulfill the functional requirement of our client. And lastly, it must be a solution. Okay, so when I superimpose that diagram of the three principles of architecture together with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, so this is actually a good representation of how we work is coincidentally. Okay, so in our projects, always we want our building to be functional, okay, to fulfill our roles as architects, and we want to meet our client needs. Okay, but ironically, we spend minimum time to actually pursue the last bit, which is actually beauty in our space and actually in our architecture. Okay, and and this is something that that keep me pondering. Okay, why is it so? And I try not to fall within this framework whereby building have to be too functional. Building must still have that joy of enjoyment in terms of its space and looking at it with pleasure. Okay, so to the benefit of the audience here, so I understand that there'll be audience that don't really understand or new to what's happening in Singapore. There are actually two key issues that actually is shaping the construction industry in Singapore. First is the climate, which everyone know. Because Singapore is part of the Paris Agreement, so there's a certain level of commitment that we have to fulfill in terms of our buildings. And the other thing that everyone is facing here in our projects today is actually the labor forces. And Singapore being Singapore, the way we implement things is pretty fast. So in order to make the whole construction industry respond to these two big factors, the Building Construction Authority actually rolls out 3 roadmaps for all the practitioners in Singapore to fulfill. So we will talk about green building, okay, and then we will talk about this notion of DFMA, which is part of this about this integrated design, digital design delivery. So later on, I will also present 2 projects on behalf of my colleagues from RSP that they are actually a good representation of the solutions that we have worked together to actually respond to these 2 factors, which is the climate and the labor force. Okay, so sustainable design. So when I joined the construction industry in 2005, okay, Green Mark just rolled out. Okay, it was a very enjoyable experience. In fact, at 2005 to fulfill the Green Mark requirement. Okay, because at the time basically the construction industry, the BCA actually incentivize you for doing Green Mark buildings. Okay, so me and my team were actually working on this hospital. And you know that hospitals actually have a lot of this 24 hours and a lot of this very high consumption treatment areas. But yet the joy is there to actually get the Green Mark Platinum. So along the years, Green Mark kind of get more and more difficult. And in my opinion, for Green Mark version 3 and 4, right up to 2008 to 2015 is basically the M&E engineer show. Okay, we always push it to the M&E engineer to make their equipment more efficient, and so that we can actually get the energy scoring. But moving on for the next 5 years, I found that the responsibility goes back to the architect. Okay, because there's so much the equipment can do, and the responsibility actually relies on the architect, as you can actually see over here, whereby there's a great need to push for passive strategies, okay, in our design, so that the energy consumption will be reduced as much as possible at the schematic stage before we actually fine tune the systems of the building to actually reach its energy saving. Okay, so this is another diagram from AIA. As you can see here, a large part of the energy consumption will come from the architects thinking of design strategies to actually set the design correct, so that other discipline doing the work later will meet the energy target. So very simple of what I've looked at in today's projects, okay, is that the functional requirement gets larger, okay, and then there's always a challenge, I would say, to actually continue to work within these challenges while making our buildings as exciting as possible. Just a simple illustration. Okay, basically I feel now we have to actually design our buildings for performance. So this is just an example of the Lamborghini car. The Lamborghini car is still a car after 40 years of evolution. But what makes the Lamborghini in 2021 different is that it's actually designed for performance. It runs better, and then at the same time, it's not a design that is done by engineers to actually power the car, but it's a design product. As you see that the Lamborghini in 2021 is just sexy and also very appealing. Okay, so now I will share a few two projects. Okay, the first project is actually a case study for this Singapore Institute of Technology in Singapore. So this project is actually located in the northeastern part of Singapore. So the context of the project is that it's actually facing the sea, okay, the Straits of Johor, and the geographical location of Singapore is that it's really south of Malaysia. So this project actually have a very good vantage point towards Malaysia. And as you can see on the top left diagram there, okay, when we actually approach the project, the strategy is actually a passive design strategy. We actually orientate the building north-south as much as possible, while opening up the wing of the building towards the reservoir to catch the prevailing wind as well as the views towards the sea. Some data, the site area of this project is about 4.2 hectare, and then the GFA is about 130 meters square. Okay, so this is how it looks like on perspective. So you see the two wing actually opens up, and with a green spine running through between the building itself. And on top of the building were a series of PV panel, about 5,000 meters square of PV panel, to actually generate the renewable energy for the building itself. So this is from the reservoir view. Okay, it's a very nice place in Punggol, whereby in front of the water feature is actually a jogging track for people to enjoy. And through the form of actually opening up the courtyard, we actually invite the public to actually goes into the university campus. So the ground plane is actually intermixed, and it's actually these are some planning diagram. So for the first diagram on the left, basically we located the admin block tucked at the bottom left-hand corner of the building, so that it anchors the approach road from the Punggol Road as well as the Punggol Coastal Road. Okay. Thereafter, the academic blocks on the second diagram to actually frame that view at the courtyard, okay, so that we can actually frame the view towards the waterway, towards the southeast direction. And the third diagram is that these two blocks will be linked by a spine that is filled with classroom and also academics facilities. So underneath this linkage spine, we have a porous plane, so that the ground activities can actually flow through towards the waterway. Okay. So next one is we are very conscious about identity and how we create markers within this 4.2 hectare. And for the middle diagram, basically these are what we call project hub. These are actually collaboration space between the campus as well as the public, as well as the practitioner, okay, coming to the schools and having their collaboration work. The right diagram is actually where we locate the auditorium block. Basically, we want to actually make the auditorium public, so that the public can actually use the facilities of the campus, as well as having a good vantage point towards the sea. Okay, so these are some of the diagrams that I mentioned, how we actually do this connectivity on the ground plane. Yeah, so this is a rendered landscape diagram, and for this, apart from landscape, we actually tried we did this concept of how we can actually harness the water. So all the water actually when it flows within this 4.2 hectare land will actually be diverted to this feature called the rain garden. Basically, it holds all the water into the pond. And this concept of ABC, which stands for Active, Beautiful, Clean and Water Program, actually means that when the water actually falls in the landscape, the rainwater actually gets filtered through the subsoil system before the water is drained towards the rain garden. And then the water catch in the rain garden is actually used for irrigation and also serve as a water feature for the students and for the public to enjoy. So some of this internal perspective. So this is where you are standing at the rain garden. So it's very large. Podium with planters, and then you can see the connections above you, so that you know how to actually navigate around the building. The perspective on the right is actually the drop-off point. So we have triple volume drop-off point to actually mark the entrance for the campus. Okay, so we also remember this is also the green lawn area, also the green spine where the public can actually and the students can actually use sit around the lawn, having the out of classroom activities. Okay, so this is actually spine on the northern side of the building, which we call the campus boulevard. Basically, it's a 18-meter wide corridor with retail facilities, F&B outlets that actually let the public to walk through as they move towards the waterway. Okay, so some perspective of the auditorium. Okay, so we also have some form of stepping gardens from the multi-purpose block to the waterway. So students, the public can actually weave through the building while reaching the waterway. So this building basically is beautiful, and on top of that, it actually has a very strong performance value in it. So for this building, we actually won the Green Mark Platinum Award, which is Green Mark in Singapore context is equivalent to LEEDs. So this is a very high award for this building. And on top of that, we have two super low energy building for this in this campus itself. So when the team undergo the design, okay, like what I mentioned, they are very wary about the north-south orientation. And, so for the first diagram over here, you can actually see that the success of the what you call it, the solar gain on the facade is actually minimum. Okay, you don't have red spots on the facade itself. And then the diagram on the left is actually how we actually catch the prevailing wind direction. So this link me back to the first part where we talk about strategies. Actually, the strategies that our company is thinking of while we are trying to solve the requirements that is slated by the client or as well as the authorities. So with this good ventilation, basically it helps to actually ventilate a lot of these open spaces within the campus, which are all naturally ventilated. Okay, so the other this is a super energy block that you can see over here. We call this block E5 time being. So for block E5, basically it actually houses the multi-purpose hall. The biggest strategy here is how do we actually make this a super low energy? Okay, given that the biggest challenge of this block is actually a double volume space to house the multi-purpose hall facilities. So what we did was that in the top right-hand corner, you actually see that we actually pushed the leaf core and the supporting facilities to the west and east orientation, okay, to actually protect the double volume space for getting the direct sun. And we also, next, what we also do is actually we introduce the concept of passive ventilation, passive displacement ventilation, whereby we actually cool the air at the low level there, so that the occupants can actually have their thermal comfort within this big space itself. The other low energy we have is actually this canteen area. So what is unique here in terms of construction, we are also using the MET, which is the mass engineered timber. This material is quite common in overseas, especially in the Europe area, Europe and Australia. But in Singapore, this is quite a new experiment that we are actually trying in our climate. So for this building itself, above the sitting area, what we have is actually BIPV to actually generate the sun, as well as having daylight to actually shine through into the sitting area. Okay. So the other, what I want to show is actually the diagram on the bottom right-hand corner. This is what we did to actually think out of a box to actually further improve the energy consumption of the food court. So we observed the usage of the food court, and the food court is basically less occupied during the academic hours, as well as the early morning, whereby only storeholders actually come to the area. So we are thinking is there a possibility that we actually have an option to change the aircon food court to a naturally ventilated one? So we worked together with the engineers, and what we did was we make the yellow color doors automatic, so that the doors will be open during when the areas is less occupied, so that the whole food court will be naturally ventilated. And then the doors will be closed during a high occupancy rate, so that we can actually convert the mode of ventilation to aircon. So this is something refreshing for me to actually try building of this kind of hybrid ventilation model. So these are just some simulations using the fan, and just to make sure that the thermal comfort is good. So this is also part and parcel of our work that we foresee in future, because clients nowadays are going for evidence-based, and whatever we do, we have to find a certain way to justify that whatever good innovation that we have is going to be workable before they place their money on them. So due to COVID, okay, we are trying to catch up. So this is how it looks like, and you can actually see exciting terraces elevated in, over here. So these are all the elevated terraces that actually brings the student activities on the different floor plane. Let them enjoy the greenery, let them enjoy the natural ventilation, okay, within this campus, making the campus less stressful, giving them the opportunity to get out of the classroom and having this kind of very intimate space interspersed within the campus. So on the top, you can see the view towards Malaysia. So in Singapore, whilst we are a small country, so a view like that is actually very precious. And we are happy that the students over here are fortunate to have actually this privilege. Okay, so this is the other view. Okay, so the next case study I want to talk about is about this idea about buildability. So what I'm citing here is actually this Cup Street project. This is actually in downtown Tanjong Bakar, around the shop house area. So what we are doing here is actually a 19-story hotel block. And then in the blue area here, okay, there's actually an underground link that links the two MRT together, so that the overall pedestrian flow is all integrated. Okay, so this is just a view of the context. You can see that this massing here is actually how the hotel looks like. This hotel is have about 980 rooms, about 19-story heights, and sit on a 2-story podium. And you can actually see the massiveness of the podium that almost occupy the entire site. Yeah. So this is how it looks like on the end product. Okay. But today I won't spend too much time to talk about the design itself. But what I want to share about is actually constructing this project. So earlier I mentioned about this thing about our labor market, our labor force in Singapore, and our building construction authority is having new ideas to actually share with the practitioner about how to actually overcome them. So the idea of buildability have been there in the market for maybe the last 10 years. So this is just some diagrams. Okay, starting from precast, and then you have other materials to see ways to actually reduce the labor. Okay, so for this project, I actually signed up for this project because you have the opportunity to try the top right corner, which is the labor saving through PPVC construction. Okay, so you always ponder me is we actually do a lot of us and also prefab in our building. So what actually ponders me is there a way to make our building construct even faster? Okay, because ultimately we actually spend the initial capital to use more of this precast and prefab product. So this is a simple diagram to illustrate the concept of PPVC. Basically, it's just like Lego blocks. Okay, you prefab the shell of the hotel rooms offsite, and then you will be stacking them up so that there's an advantage of labor, and then there's a shorter cycle time to finish floors. So a very simple diagram, okay, to illustrate the advantage of using PPVC. So conventionally, all materials have to go to the construction site. Okay, so when the construction floor is not ready, okay, the material have to be stored elsewhere, and there's always this downtime to resolve labor materials coming to the construction site. So what PPVC helps is actually it allows you to fabricate your rooms offsite. Imagine you have to fit out say 900 rooms, and then you have 900 units away from the construction site. You can actually have your labor, you can actually have your materials offsite while the construction site is actually building up from the basement to the top floor. And once the transfer floor is ready, you can actually start stacking on them. Okay, so this is just a simple idea, simple illustration for what I meant. So after to reach the transfer slab, usually it takes about a quarter of the construction period. And while the building is going to the transfer slab area, the PPVC construction could actually happen elsewhere. Okay, and then once the PPVC starts stacking up, basically you can actually start your facade works and finish up the balance fitting out works. So for a very tight site, like what I shown just now, surrounded by residential, surrounded by shop house, okay, the PPVC kind of helps in terms because it speeds up the construction, and actually it contains the fitting out noise that may affect the neighbors. So along the way, we also learn about this idea. Okay, traditionally we always have architecture design, and then we let the contractor think of the construction method. But when we talk about constructability, I feel it's the other way around. We have to think of the construction method to think of and then see how we can harness the speed of the construction method into our architecture design. So, for this one, it's just an example, highlighting the vertical elements in red. Okay, because of the PPVC happening offsite, okay, there's always alignment issues once you have vertical elements running through your building. So these are some things that we learn along the way that we can actually improve the productivity to complete the project. Okay, the other thing that we learn as well is that how to provide construction tolerance. What is shaded in the orange area are the costs. So the cost is always rigid and fixed, and basically when the units are slot in between the cost area, sometimes we need rectification because of tolerance on site, which will actually slow down the PVC process. So learning from that, if I have a chance to do another PPVC project, okay, I will actually push my cost away to actually provide more tolerance to actually give faster so that I can actually harness the speed of this PPVC construction. And the other thing that I actually learned also is the shape of the podium. Okay, so the podium is very big, and there's no resting or grounding space for the PPVC to rest on before they get to the building. So for this project, what we have is we actually created temporary openings through the podium, which I feel kind of slow down the construction speed. So some photos. So this is a photo that I took every day. Every week I cross the road to the project site. So this is the transfer plate, and after the transfer plate is done, basically we start stacking. Okay, it's a very simple concept. Yeah, and I wish I wish that we can actually try another of this PPVC type of project. So this is a photo about 2 months ago about the progress of the site. Okay, we are still stacking as of today. Okay, so I just want to wrap up the presentation in the next 2 slides. Okay, so this is where am I after I graduated in 2004 after 19 years of practice. And what is constant is actually changes to me. Okay, so I remember I graduated not knowing how to do SketchUp, and only pick up SketchUp in 4 years later. I don't understand about Grimmark, okay, because NUS didn't teach me about Grimmark, but I know how to fill out forms, and I know how to do checklist item. Okay, so I survived pretty well for the first 4 to 5 years. So along the way, there are also new things popping up. Okay, because like what I say, Singapore respond very fast to issues in the country. So just to highlight a few, especially in 2011, okay, if you recall, there was actually this this flooding in Orchard Road. So immediately, PUB, the Public Utilities Board, start to introduce things like ask you to actually retain the water before they are discharged to the public drain. Okay, and along the way, new things actually come along the way. So what I'm trying to say is, depending on where you enter the construction industry, there's always a lot of things to learn. And I think that actually make our life as architects very interesting. Okay, because the next job is not okay. You could do a project in hospital in 2009. I finished hospital in 2009, and when I finished a hospital in 2011, the requirement is totally different. You can't possibly cut and paste, and all, of course, there's a lot of things about on the job learning, entrepreneurship, and like what I advocate the talk. We must always find a very beautiful design response amid of all these challenges that we are looking at. Okay, so I was afraid to bore all of you actually with too much of this codes and things and also challenges. So this is just some lighter side of me. So okay, so I give myself a challenge. Okay, every year I give myself a challenge. Okay, join 2 races. Okay, and then do 1 design competition. So starting from the top left, just to go through very quickly, this is basically some, okay, you can see a bit of this PPVC construction concept. This is actually a design competition in Nigeria, Lagos City. Okay, it's about how we deal with plastic waste. So the great thing about doing this kind of project, I feel, is that you force yourself to, and you force myself to actually understand about issues. So for this, the brief is actually how do you deal with plastic waste? And I was quite intrigued that plastic waste actually is something that pops up only in plastic as a material only pops up in 1970. And then when we say that plastic can be biodegradable, but but plastic actually takes 400 years to really degrade. So to be true, I think nobody have actually seen plastic being degraded. Okay, so the concept here is actually if I can actually use some ramp earth or a 5-sided cube, I store the plastics waste inside the cube, invert them, and actually stack it up to create some form of landform for buildings and things like that. The right hand side is actually a competition that I did in Mali. Okay, when I was doing SIT, I feel we are a bit too complicated in the things we do sometimes. Okay, we want to do, we want to have what you call barrier. We want to have sustainability awards. We want to have a good beautifulty score. But for this project in Mali, I kind of excited because basically I was looking at very old schools, okay, those schools that are done in post-war, using column span less than 5 meter, using brick brick columns, walls, and things like that. Okay, so this was something that I read and learned along the way, and I'm also a Liverpool fan. So the left hand side is actually in Senegal, okay, whereby I look at using both pre-existing structure, okay, to actually create a school for rural area. I was hoping to sell this to Sadio Mane, okay, which is the Liverpool striker, which do a lot of this charitable work back in his hometown. And of course, the last one is actually this Changi Hospital project. Okay, a very simple idea of just breaking up the walls. Okay, for those who know the existing Changi Hospital, basically feels very spooky at night. Okay, because that is the hospital whereby there was a lot of killing during the Second World War. So I work with my wife, who is also an architect here today, to actually think of some ideas to actually make the space. So all in short, I just want to keep everyone inspired. Today is still a very challenged environment to us as designers and architects. But I think the fundamental thing that we always need to do is actually to refuel that passion. because only refueling the passion can push us further, and also can actually help us to think of more creative ideas and solutions. So with that, I end my talk tonight. Yeah, thank you.
I will sit here. Thank you, Typhen. I've been listening and smiling at the same time because I had the feeling of being at school, listening to all of the different elements that you went through. But I was smiling because I could feel the passion. And that's really exciting. Like, as you mentioned, we are in our daily life, we are architects, we are dealing with so many things. And usually, architects will always talk about the regulation, how difficult it is. But for you, you see and you saw all of this regulation as great moment to be challenged, great moment to upscale, to go into something different, to learn something new. And that's what exactly architecture should be, and what architects should be. Like, to always be excited about new things and to explore new territories. I took many notes, I have many questions. I would start with your own life journey, because you talked about the different projects and how you are experiencing again something new regulation. How do you balance all of that in the sense that sometimes you can be lost? As you mentioned, there are things that you did not learn at school, that NUS did not train you in some field, which is understandable as well because there are so many things to learn. So how did you find the resources to go through those challenging moments where you might be lost, where you don't know what to do, you don't know where to go, but you need to go? How were you doing that?
I believe everything just needs that very first step. So some of these regulations or some of this, even your client brief may sound challenging to you, but I guess it's always a mentality to actually start reading and actually start understanding. And once you can actually systematically dissect the problem and identify what you can solve, I don't think there's anything that can't be resolved. So I guess it's always a mindset that we have that we need to have in life. Yeah.
In this again, your journey, because I was listening to the different steps, and you rarely used the word "I did this" or "I did that," but you were constantly referring to the team. Your own team within RSP, the engineers, the landscape architect. So how do you see the role of architect in this entire game? Is it a kind of a master builder? Is it a kind of orchestrating everything around? So how do you see your role, especially when we see that the building, like 140,000 square meter, it's a massive building, So how do you see your role in this big playground?
So incidentally, when I write emails, I never use the word I also. So it's always we, because I recognize that the problems and issues is so big, and not one person can actually solve them. Okay, and I also have to give the recognition to my teammates because they give me the support and also the opportunity to actually solve those problems on hand. So I always think teamwork is always very important when we actually encounter very complex projects like what we are having. I guess being in a corporate company, I think that's the biggest merit. Okay, because at one point of time, I did consider whether I want to come out myself or I want to actually still stay with a big company like RSP. So always the big merit of being a corporate company, big company, is that there is always people to smile to. There's always people to scold. Then there's always people to actually help you when you are in trouble. And the most important thing, being a senior architect, is actually continue to motivate the younger people. Yeah, because they are the ones that will continue to support the vision that as well as what your company will want to achieve.
Thanks for addressing all of that. I just would like to go on the a bit of the technical side because like the PPVC is fascinating. It looks like, as you mentioned, like Lego, and it looks so easy, and it looks so like, yeah, like just easy to stack, and then you create a building, but it doesn't seem as easy as that. Do you have like some like quick side story of a moment on site where the block doesn't stack properly and you have an issue, or does this exist, or no, it follows that perfectly from one another and you can be like 70-story high?
Okay, I think you hit the right note on this item. So like what I mentioned, the PPVC actually is a very new concept in Singapore, and then we know that when we cast it can't be perfect. So the concrete itself have about 3 to 5 mm tolerance itself, and once you put them together, in fact when we are stacking the very first unit, okay, the unit can't be slotted through into the rebars. Okay, so the contractors have to be frantically adjusting the rebar position and knocking the brackets in place. Yeah. So along the way, we have to learn. We have to see how we can solve the issue. Either we create more tolerance by adjusting the bracket position of the subsequent PPVC unit. Yeah. But the most important thing is that we recognize there's a learning curve in all projects. And for this PPVC construction, even the contractor, even the consultants are doing something new. And then we learn along the way. We were slow stacking in the initial phase, but now I think we are pretty good. Okay, if the weather permits, we can stack like 10 units per day, yeah, which is a very good productivity outcome.
And on that, do you see that as the future of construction? Do you see that as a possibility of some craft to it, like not all stacking like this, but can it be turned, or like something that can be even crazier in terms of creativity?
I would try to do the next project faster if I have the opportunity to do PPVC first. I guess the industry just still need to be well versed with this new method of construction. Okay, especially in Singapore, we don't have the skill actually to do PPVC. Okay, so even the contractor who do PVC for this project, the same contractor doing for the next. So there's always a learning curve. And most importantly, we bring this experience to the next project that we are doing.
And looking into the other one, the SE building, you explained a lot about passive design, and that goes back even to the introduction of your entire talk. So to have this passive design approach, how did you have to enforce it to convince others, to convince our team members to go in this passive design direction?
I feel in the company it kind of become a mindset now. Okay, because once you know that your project is going for at least a gold or platinum, every architect is more or less understand the challenges. Because if you don't get the passive component correct, there's a lot of rework towards the end. And once you orientate your building, for instance, in the west-east facade, then the construction cost will come up. and then you need a more creative solution for the MAE. So that is, to me, not worth it to actually spend time to actually correct your design, which is not done properly in the first place.
And on that, so along the, to discover some element, to learn some new element as well, what would be for you the next step? Because you've been handling so many different projects. Do you keep track of the number of projects you've been doing at RSP? Did you do like 50 projects, 100 projects, or how is it?
No, I don't keep track now. Yeah, and I have not hit 10 projects now. I can know for sure. Yeah.
But like, so what could be for you the next big challenge? Something where you're like, wow, this kind of project is something that I really would like to explore, to work on, and maybe it is not a big project. Maybe it is something just a house, you know.
Yeah, actually, I think a house will be a challenge to me because I actually handle project of that scale. Yeah, so since I graduated, I've been handling bigger institutional projects and transportation projects. Yeah. So I think we are not talking about project time, but I'm looking into every project is a new opportunity, and then sometimes you can actually find some challenges in that project. Yeah. For instance, like what I meant is like try to make it construct faster or spend less money or just make the design so unique and so so iconic. I mean, there's always different approach to actually address a new project.
Okay, I will finish with one personal question, because you talk about your career, you talk about what you are doing at RSP, and then you talk about what you do. You say that you're two race plus competition. So you do all of this extra competition and races. They are outside of RSP, isn't it?
Yeah, correct.
And so, how do you juggle with your life balance? Because that's the big question that we all have, you know, as architects and designers. It's like, how do we balance? Because we do long hours, we are passionate about what we do. You said you have a wife that is here, that is also an architect. So basically, you are always in the is it?
Yeah. So I guess the biggest I think the biggest joy is actually having an architect wife that understand the hours and the things that you like to do, because she herself, she's not around sometimes over the weekend as well because she have to meet her client. So it kind of like you do your things, I do my thing, okay, and then you try not to talk about design at home because you end up arguing because every architect has their own opinion. Yeah. So so this is how we live, and we're also very blessed that we have three kids. They are very three kids. They are very independent, and then they also appreciate our work, and they understand the hardship required in our profession. So so in a way, I'm also blessed in a way that everything fall together for me. Okay, like the Maslow pyramid that you saw just now. I have that family security that allows me to actually, do things that is beyond my hours and also beyond sometimes outside the family. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Kyvern. It's really inspiring, and we can discuss on and on like this for hours, because it is really great to learn from you, to see all of your achievements, and also the passion that you have in what you do on a daily basis to inspire your team, to be a great team leader as well, to connect with other fields, and to be also a great father and a great husband. So I think it's really exciting to hear all of this. So once again, let's give a round of applause to Kyvern. Thanks again.
Thank you, everyone.
So I will do one come back next month for the second talk of the TAP series, because it is a year-long series. So thanks again, and so we can stay here to discuss and to network and to have some drinks as well. And for everyone online, thanks again for joining us, and see you the next month. Thanks, Cosentino. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Kyron.